Wow. I am in desperate need of a haircut right now. I wish I had hair as good as Zendaya's in this movie. Let me start off by saying I'm sorry I haven't made a video in a while. I've just been busy in my life, mostly because I just got a new kitten. You might be seeing him in the background of this video. Right now, he's playing underneath my chair. Here's the little guy. His name's Zuko, named after the character from Avatar: The Last Airbender. You like my microphone? Say hi to everybody. So if you hear any strange noises in the background, it's definitely the kitten. As you can see, I also got a new microphone. Oh, accidentally turned it off. Didn't mean to do that. So anyway, I recently saw the movie Challengers, and it's actually been like over a week now. Like I said, I've been busy. I haven't been able to make a video about this film yet, but I really wanted to, so I'm doing it now. Also, I gotta say, I am on a streak right now of seeing great movies in the movie theaters. The last two films I saw before Challengers in the theaters was Civil War and Dune Part 2. And so I guess two of the last three films that I saw star Zendaya. This has been a great year so far. This could be one of the best years for movies. Mark my words, this year might be one for the history books. Let's get back to the topic at hand, though. Challengers. If you can't already tell, I love this movie. Right away, I want to say wholeheartedly that I recommend you see this film. And please go see it in theaters too. It really enhances the viewing experience, and this movie deserves your money. It's best to go into this film not knowing anything about the story, so if you want to click off this video right now and come back after you've seen it, I won't hold it against you. Please go do it. I'll be waiting for you. But if you want to hear my thoughts about it, then please continue watching. For those who don't know, Challengers is a film that's centered around three characters: Tashi, Art, and Patrick. Tashi is a former tennis prodigy who now coaches her husband Art. Art, who is known as a tennis champion, is now on a losing streak. So, to save her husband's career, Tashi signs him up for a challenger event where he'll be expected to win. But, in an unexpected outcome, Art finds himself facing off against Patrick, a washed up tennis player who happens to be Art's former best friend and Tashi's former boyfriend. And throughout the film, you see what has happened in the past with these characters that has led them up to this point. I loved every aspect of this film. This is one of those films that is so damn good that it makes other films look bad. Like, I couldn't watch another movie for a while after seeing this film because it set my standards so high. The acting was phenomenal. All three of the main characters are flawed, complex human beings that all change throughout the film, and each actor embodied their character perfectly. They made these characters feel real. Zendaya gives one of the best performances I've ever seen from her. She, I think, has the most range in this film just because of what her character has to do in this movie. Mike Feist, I first knew as the original actor for Connor in Dear Evan Hansen on Broadway, and since then he's been doing movies. And this is my first time seeing him in a leading role, and I thought he killed it. I was not aware of Josh O'Connor before this film, but I wish I was because he's awesome in this. The direction and cinematography were also great in this film, especially when it comes to the tennis scenes. I have never seen tennis filmed this way. Tennis has never looked this cool. Director Luca Guadagnino, and I'm hoping I'm saying that right, by the way, made some interesting choices for the tennis scenes that were big risks, and I think they paid off. There's one shot that sticks out in my mind towards the end of the film during the intense match between Art and Patrick. That was insane. I won't spoil what it was, but if you've seen the film, then you know what I'm talking about. And if you haven't seen it and I told you what it was, then you would think that it sounds bonkers. The choice of music was also such a unique one. This film opts for a techno soundtrack, and you might think that's a strange choice, but I think it works in this movie. Not to mention, it's good techno music that got me pumped every time it came on. The way they use the techno music in this film, I also found to be interesting. From what I remember, they play the techno music during the tennis matches, but they also play it every time two characters are having an argument. And in my interpretation, what the film is saying by doing this is that these characters are treating these arguments like tennis matches, hurling lines and insults back and forth at each other like tennis balls. These are three very competitive people, and they showcase this competitive nature in their arguments. They see them as something to win. That's how I saw it anyway. The one aspect of this film, though, that I really want to talk about is the writing. I think this is an example of a perfect script, and I don't say that very often. I think any aspiring writer like myself should study this script because there's a lot to learn. Not only is the dialogue well written and realistic, but the overall story itself is amazing. The story of Challengers is presented as a non-linear narrative, and I think this was the perfect way to tell this story. The match between Art and Patrick is used as a framing device, and throughout the match, we are slowly drip fed information via flashbacks. The tension is constantly rising in this film. Just when you think you have enough information about these characters, the movie throws another piece of information at you that completely switches up the dynamics. Also, I find it funny that the guy who wrote this script is the same guy behind the viral potion seller video on YouTube. This is his first writing credit for a feature film, and I cannot think of a better first outing. I love how information is given to the audience in this film. The non-linear storytelling really works in this film's favor. For example, at one point in the movie, there is a reference to something that has happened in the past in Atlanta, and we don't get to know what that was right away. We don't get to actually see what happened until much later in the film when it's actually relevant to what is being said in a certain scene. Again, I'm trying not to spoil anything that happens in this movie for those that haven't seen it. And the script jumps around to a lot of different points in time, and you would think that would be confusing, but I actually found it to be pretty easy to follow. The film actually uses good context clues to tell you where in the timeline this scene is taking place. A lot of times they'll just show you text on the screen to tell you like what year it is, but other times they'll use things like, for instance, the day before the big match between Art and Patrick, there was this big windstorm. So you know that when you're watching a scene where the characters are outside and it's very windy, you know that that's the day before the big match. I just like that things aren't over explained in this script. That's why I love the writing in this movie so much. There's another prime example of what I'm talking about here. Towards the end of the movie, a character does something that is a callback to an earlier moment in the film. And it's a really cool way for a character to like reveal certain information to another character. And any other freaking movie would have just cut back to that earlier moment in the film. They would have flashed that scene on screen to remind the audience of what this is referencing. And that shit just annoys the hell out of me when I see it in movies. I see it all the damn time. It's like they think we're stupid or something. Like we need a little reminder. Like in this movie, if you didn't recognize what was being referenced in that callback, then you just weren't paying attention when you were watching the movie. Like, I don't know what else to say. Like, I love that this movie trusts its audience to remember certain details. And honestly, like, I'm going on about it like it's a big, like, hidden detail. It's very obvious. If you watch the movie, you'll know exactly what scene I'm talking about. But that's kind of like my point here. Most of the time when movies do this kind of thing, it is obvious. So we don't need a little flash on the screen to remind us of what callback is being referenced here. It's just so annoying, but thankfully this movie doesn't do that. This reminds me of a video that I made a while back about Marvel and how like my big problem with a lot of Marvel movies and TV shows is that they don't like respect their audience. Like they think their audience is a bunch of dimwits. But this film, Challengers, respects its audience, especially with the writing. Like the writing respects the audience. It respects the audience's time, even though this film is, quite long. Not a minute is wasted, in my opinion. I felt like everything that was put on screen was worth my time watching. And the story just left enough like clues for the audience to just piece it together. Not everything needs to be completely explained to us like we're idiots. The characters are also all very well written. All three of these main characters do shitty things. Like they all do terrible stuff. And what I like is that the movie doesn't really judge the characters. It kind of leaves it up to the audience to judge the characters. Like I found myself rooting for each character at different points of the movie. Like Patrick, for instance. At first, the way that he's shown, like you might think that he's going to be like the villain of the movie, but I found myself having a lot of sympathy for him, especially at one big moment in the movie. I felt like he was treated pretty unfairly in this one scene, and it was pretty frustrating, and it makes you understand why he would hold a grudge for this long. And lastly, I just want to briefly touch on the ending. This movie has a perfect ending. Like, this movie's ending is fucking awesome. It is up there with Whiplash. This is on the same level as the ending to Whiplash. Like, it is fucking awesome. Like, it made me want to like jump out of my seat. Like I was on the edge of my seat for like the entire last like 15 minutes of this movie. It was honestly, I think, the best possible way you could have ended this film. I won't get into specifics though, in case people haven't seen it yet. If you do want to talk about it, we can talk about it in the comments, and I could talk about some specifics. Anyway, that's all I wanted to say about this movie, Challengers. If you have not seen it yet, please, I implore you, go see this movie. It is one of the best films I've seen in a very, very long time. It might be the best film I've seen this year so far. And I know I said this about Civil War in my previous video, but I'm going to say it here again. I think this movie is definitely going to be on my top 10 list at the end of the year. If you have seen Challengers, let me know what you thought about it in the comments below. I read all my comments, so I'll try to respond to you if I can. If you haven't seen my previous video about Civil War, you can watch that right here. By the way, that has been by far my highest performing video yet. Right now, it's at 2.1k views. I am forever grateful for you guys for watching that video. I'm glad you guys enjoyed it. I really appreciate all the kind words people said about that video in the comments. Like, this is why I do this stuff. This is why I make these videos, because I want to entertain people, and I want to make good content that people want to watch. If you have seen the Civil War video already, then please feel free to check out some of my other content. Also, if you're not subscribed yet, please consider subscribing. It really helps the channel out. I want to see... Oh my god. Zuko, now... I almost got through the whole video without him making noise. Zuko's in the background playing with his ping pong ball. Please consider subscribing. It really helps the channel out. I want to see this channel grow. But yeah, that's all for now. Thank you so much for watching, and I'll see you guys next time.